I found out my wife was cheating on me with the Uber Eats delivery guy. I know it sounds ridiculous, but trust me, it's all too real. Let me take you back a bit to give you some context. My name's Jake, and I've been married to Michelle for 5 years. We met in college where we were both studying business. We clicked right away. She was charming, funny, and always the life of the party. I was drawn to her energy, and we quickly fell in love, leading to what I thought was a solid marriage. But lately, things began to feel off. I started noticing little things. Michelle was more distant. She'd come home later from her runs, claiming she was just grabbing coffee with friends. Her phone was always face down, and she had this new habit of taking it with her when she went to the bathroom. And let's not forget the countless times she'd initiate a fight over the smallest things. One minute we were laughing over dinner, the next she'd be snapping at me for not loading the dishwasher properly. It felt like I was walking on eggshells, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing beneath the surface. One afternoon, I got home early from work. It was a Friday, and I was looking forward to a cozy night with my wife. I walked in and caught her on her phone, laughing and whispering, her eyes darting back to the screen. I tried to engage her, but she suddenly became cold, saying she had to go to the store for groceries. I didn't think much of it then, but something about that interaction stuck with me. It was like she was hiding something, and my gut was starting to churn. Things came to a head a few weeks later when I received a notification from my credit card company for a charge I did recognize, $60 at a restaurant I'd never heard of. I confronted her about it, and she brushed it off, saying it was for a lunch with a coworker. But the truth was, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was profoundly wrong. So I began digging a little deeper, and what I found was beyond what I could have imagined. One night, I decided to take a little drive to clear my head and maybe catch a glimpse of what the heck was going on. I happened to drive by that restaurant and nearly crashed when I saw her there, sitting across from none other than my Uber Eats delivery guy, a dude named Ryan. They were laughing, leaning in close, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. My heart raced and I felt bile rising in my throat. This was real, and I was not prepared for it. I ended up driving around the block a few times, trying to process what I had just witnessed. I felt like the world was crumbling around me. When I finally got home, I was a bundle of nerves and I couldn't wrap my head around the betrayal. The rage bubbled up inside me and I knew I had to confront her. I had to know if it was true and why she would betray me with someone so ordinary. I decided to wait until she got home. When she walked through the door, I could see the guilt written all over her face. I didn't waste time with niceties. I jumped right in. "So how was dinner with your buddy Ryan?" Her face paled and I watched her scramble for words. She stuttered and stumbled, trying to come up with some excuse about just being friends and how I was overreacting, that it was all innocent fun. This was the moment I was dreading, and yet I felt a strange sense of relief that I was finally confronting the truth. As she made her excuses, I felt anger surging through me. How could she lie so easily? I was so furious that I could hardly speak, but deep down, I felt the sting of heartbreak. All those years I thought we were building a life together, and I just found out she was building a secret with someone else. The confrontation escalated, accusations were thrown around, and I was drowning in disbelief. I wanted to scream, to throw her lies back in her face, but I couldn't find the words. The emotional impact hit me like a freight train. I went from shock to rage and then to this unbearable sadness, seeing my life unravel before me. The pain was almost too much to bear. I needed to think to process this anguish, but all I could do was stand there feeling utterly destroyed. What the hell was I going to do now? After that confrontation, I found myself in a whirlwind of emotions. I felt sick to my stomach, my body heavy with the weight of betrayal, and my mind racing with disbelief. Michelle had lied to me for so long, and the mere thought of her with that delivery guy made my blood boil. I spent the entire night tossing and turning, replaying every moment from our relationship in my head, trying to decipher when it all went wrong. The next morning, I got up early. I didn't want to face her, yet I knew we needed to talk. I made a pot of coffee, hoping it would somehow clear the fog in my mind. I sat at our dining table, my head buried in my hands, trying to find the strength to face her. When Michelle finally came down, she looked tired, her eyes puffy from lack of sleep. I could see the guilt etched on her face, but there was also a touch of defiance, as if she couldn't understand why I was so upset. We sat in silence for a moment, the tension thick in the air. Finally, I managed to find my voice. "I saw you with Ryan, don't try to deny it." Her expression shifted, and I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind as she prepared yet another excuse. "Jake, it's not what you think. I told you it was just lunch with a friend," she said, her tone defensive, but I could see through that facade. "You call that a friend?" I shot back, my frustration bubbling to the surface. "Do you really expect me to believe that?" She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. "I can't believe you do this to me, to us. I thought we were happy." The anger in my voice surprised even me, but it was a necessary release. I was drowning in hurt and betrayal, and I needed her to understand just how deeply she had cut me. "I wasn't happy, Jake. You've been so focused on work and your life plan that I felt forgotten. Ryan listened to me and I got caught up in it." She yelled back, her defenses crumbling. Her words stunned me. Was this really her justification? I felt the anger shift to sorrow, like a heavy weight pressing down on me. My heart ached not just for the betrayal, but for the fact that she felt neglected. I had been so absorbed in my career and ambitions that I had overlooked her feelings. "Neglected, really? Is that your excuse for sleeping with him?" I asked incredulously. "You could have talked to me, I would have listened." We argued back and forth, and it felt like we were two different people, strangers at this point. I wanted to scream, to shake her until she understood how wrong she was, but I also felt an undeniable sadness creeping in. The woman I loved had shattered everything we built together, and it felt like I was losing not just her, but the life we had shared. Eventually, the argument fizzled out, leaving us both exhausted. I could see her mask slipping. She was just as lost as I was. I thought about how I used to find her laughter infectious, how she used to lift my spirits after a long day, and it hurt to know that I had somehow become the person she resented. After the confrontation, I needed some time alone to gather my thoughts. I took a long drive, letting the wind whip through the open windows, trying to clear my head. I didn't want to think about Michelle or Ryan, but I couldn't escape it. I felt like a fool, a complete and utter idiot for letting things get to this point. As I drove, I stumbled upon a quaint little cafe that I used to visit before life got too busy. I parked my car and stepped inside, hoping to find some solace in an old favorite. The aroma of coffee and baked goods flooded my senses, and for a moment I felt a glimmer of comfort amidst the chaos. I ordered a black coffee and took a seat at a table by the window, my mind still racing. I watched people go by, couples laughing, families chatting, and I felt a deep sense of loss. I had that once with Michelle. What had we become? I wanted to scream, to demand answers from the universe, but all I could do was sit there quietly, feeling utterly defeated. After a while, I decided to move forward with a plan. I wasn't going to sit around wallowing in misery. I felt a spark of anger ignite within me, a desire for revenge, not in a malicious way, but in a way that would show Michelle what she lost. I wanted to make her see that I could be more than just the guy she cheated on. So I made a decision. I would turn this into an opportunity for myself. I had always loved cooking but never pursued it seriously, always thinking I had to stick to my day job for financial stability. But now, I saw a chance to channel my pain into something productive. I began to imagine a future where I could prove not just to Michelle, but to myself that I was capable of greatness. I signed up for cooking classes and started spending evenings in the kitchen, learning everything I could. I wanted to become a top chef, not just for myself, but to reclaim my self-worth. I was going to show her what she was missing. It was time for me to rise, and I was ready to take the first step. Little did I know, this would lead me on a culinary journey that would change everything, including the way I viewed my marriage, my worth, and ultimately my life. With a newfound determination, I dedicated myself to cooking. I started taking classes at a local culinary school, immersing myself in everything from basic knife skills to mastering sauces and desserts. It was exhilarating. Each session felt like a release, a chance to channel my anger and disappointment into something creative. I found solace in the rhythm of chopping vegetables, the sizzle of a hot pan, and the intoxicating smells wafting through the kitchen. As I honed my skills, I also started experimenting at home. I would cook elaborate meals, often late into the night. I transformed our kitchen into my playground, and while I was at it, I began to document my progress on social media. I shared photos of my dishes, my triumphs, and even my flops. I wanted to showcase my transformation, not just to Michelle, but to the world. During my culinary journey, I discovered an eye for detail and a passion for flavors I never knew I had. I began to dream big. What if I could turn this into a career? I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I wanted to prove to myself that I could be more than just Jake, the office guy. While I was immersed in this new world, Michelle and I were still living under the same roof, but things had changed drastically. The atmosphere was tense and awkward, filled with unspoken words and lingering resentment. I wasn't ready to forgive her, and she seemed to be struggling with a mix of guilt and defiance, asserting that I was overreacting. One evening, after a particularly successful cooking session, I decided to make dinner for both of us. I was eager to showcase my progress, to show her what she had overlooked. I prepared a beautiful three-course meal, a fresh salad with homemade dressing, seared salmon with a lemon dill sauce, and for dessert, a decadent chocolate lava cake. I set the table with care, lighting candles and playing soft music in the background. When she walked in, I was excited yet nervous. I wanted her to see the transformation I was undergoing and to realize what she was missing out on. As she took a seat at the table, her eyes widened in surprise. "Wow, this looks amazing," she said, momentarily breaking through the tension. I served her the salad first, and she took a bite, her expression shifting from surprise to appreciation. "This is really good, Jake," she exclaimed, and for a brief moment I felt a flicker of hope that maybe we could reconnect. But as we moved on to the main course, the conversation turned awkwardly back to our relationship. I tried to keep it light, but she couldn't help but bring up Ryan. "You can't just ignore the fact that I made a mistake, Jake. I'm trying to fix things," she said, her voice strained. I felt the tension rise again, but instead of lashing out, I took a deep breath. "You can't just say it was a mistake and expect everything to go back to normal. You hurt me, Michelle. You need to understand how serious this is," I replied, my voice steady. She looked down at her plate, remorse washing over her face. "I know I messed up. I just thought I could get away with it. I didn't realize how much I would lose," she admitted, her tone softer now. The meal continued, and we managed to share a few laughs, but the underlying tension remained. I could see she was trying, and part of me wanted to forgive her, but another part whispered that I was better off focusing on myself. As weeks went by, I immersed myself deeper into cooking, and my social media following began to grow. I started hosting small dinner parties for friends, showcasing my culinary capabilities. Each event was a success, filled with laughter, good food, and compliments. People were genuinely impressed, and it fueled my ambition even more. I began to think about ways to take it to the next level. Maybe I could turn my social media presence into something larger, a food blog perhaps. I could share recipes and cooking tips with a wider audience. I felt alive for the first time in ages, and with each passing day, I grew more confident. But of course, Michelle continued to hover around, filled with mixed emotions. She was proud of my cooking achievements, but also envious of the attention I was garnering. I could see it in her eyes whenever I received compliments from friends or followers. The jealousy simmered beneath the surface, and it was an odd feeling. Part of me liked that she was feeling it, and another part wished things could go back to how they used to be. Then came the day I received an unexpected message. It was from a well-known local restaurant owner, someone who had seen my online posts and wanted to meet. He expressed interest in collaborating, perhaps even inviting me to do a guest chef night at his establishment. I was beyond excited. This was the opportunity I had been dreaming of. When I shared the news with Michelle, I expected her to be thrilled for me. Instead, I saw her expression shift again, this time to something darker. "Why do you need to work at some restaurant? You're doing fine with your little cooking thing. What's the big deal?" she snapped, crossing her arms. I was taken aback by her reaction. "This is a huge opportunity, Michelle. It could change everything for me, I replied, feeling the frustration bubble up again. Why wouldn't you want to support that? I don't know, Jake. It just seems like you're getting ahead of yourself, she said, her tone defensive. It dawned on me then that she was scared, not just of my success, but of what it meant for our future. If I truly pursued my passion and found success, it might put a wedge between us. I took a moment to consider her words, but I quickly pushed them aside. I was no longer going to let her fears dictate my life. I made up my mind. I wasn't going to let her insecurities hold me back. I had to take this chance, and I was determined to show her that I could thrive, even without her support. The next day, I confirmed the guest chef night and began preparing for the event, my heart racing with anticipation. As I dove into this new chapter of my life, I knew Michelle was watching from the sidelines, and I couldn't help but wonder how she would react to the man I was becoming. Would she regret her choices? Would she miss the man who had once devoted himself entirely to her? As I stood in my kitchen, chopping fresh herbs and preparing my signature dish, I felt a surge of confidence. I was ready to take on the world, and nothing would stop me now. The day of the guest chef event arrived, and I was a bundle of nerves mixed with excitement. I had spent the previous weeks meticulously planning every detail from the menu to the presentation. The restaurant, a trendy spot known for its farm-to-table cuisine, was the perfect venue to showcase my culinary skills. I wanted to impress not just the patrons but also myself. When I arrived at the restaurant, the energy was electric. I could see the staff bustling around, preparing for the night ahead. The restaurant owner was enthusiastic, introducing me to the kitchen team and showing me the space where I'd be working. I felt like I was stepping into a whole new world, and it was exhilarating to be surrounded by people who shared my passion for food. As I got to work, the adrenaline kicked in. I moved fluidly through the kitchen, chopping, stirring, and plating my dishes. The menu I had created featured a mix of comfort food and gourmet flair: herb-crusted chicken with seasonal vegetables, a rich mushroom risotto, and a vibrant berry tart for dessert. I poured my heart into each dish, hoping it would resonate with the diners. When the doors opened, the crowd began to trickle in, and I felt my heart race. I could see familiar faces in the mix, friends who had supported me throughout this journey. Their smiles and encouragement filled me with confidence. I was ready to show them what I could do. As the first courses started to go out, I caught a glimpse of Michelle in the dining area. She had come, looking a bit uncertain but curious. I hadn't expected her to show up, and seeing her there sent a jolt of mixed emotions through me. I could tell she was watching closely, perhaps waiting to see if I would sink or swim. The first plate went out and the response was immediate. I could hear compliments floating back from the tables, people raving about the flavors and presentation. With each dish that left the pass, my confidence grew. I felt alive, completely in my element. This was what I was meant to do. During a lull between the courses, I took a moment to step outside for some fresh air. I needed to gather my thoughts and reflect on what this night meant to me. I leaned against the wall, breathing in the cool night air, when I saw Michelle step outside as well. She approached me, her expression softened, and I could see the pride in her eyes. "I didn't realize how serious you were about this," she said, her tone more respectful now. "You're really good, Jake." "Thanks, Michelle," I replied, feeling a mix of warmth and wariness. "I've worked hard for this. I want to show you that I can do more than what you think I'm capable of." She nodded, looking contemplative. "I know I messed up. I've been selfish and I've taken you for granted," she admitted, her voice sincere. I felt a flicker of hope but also guardedness. "It's going to take time to rebuild trust. I can't just forget what happened," I reminded her. "I understand, but I want to be here for you now, to support you if you'll let me," she said, her eyes earnest. I nodded, but I wasn't ready to dive back into anything. It was a step, a small one, but it felt significant in that moment. As we stood outside, the chatter from inside the restaurant faded away, and for the first time in a while I felt a connection rekindle, albeit faintly. Eventually, I had to return to the kitchen. The night went on, and I continued to receive rave reviews for my dishes. With every compliment, I felt a surge of pride and satisfaction. I was finally doing something I loved, something I was passionate about. As the evening came to a close, the owner approached me with a huge grin. "Jake, that was phenomenal. The customers loved your food. We'd love to have you back for another guest chef night soon," he said, clapping me on the back. I couldn't believe it. My heart soared with pride. I had made it through the night and I had done it well. I was beginning to carve out a place for myself in the culinary world, and it felt incredible. After the last diners left, I stepped out to the main area where Michelle was waiting. The pride in her eyes was evident and she stepped forward to embrace me. "I'm so proud of you. You killed it tonight," she exclaimed. "Thanks. It feels amazing," I replied, still buzzing from the adrenaline of the evening. As we walked to the car, I felt a mixture of warmth and hesitation. The night had brought us closer, but I still held onto my reservations. I couldn't forget the hurt, but maybe, just maybe, there was a glimmer of hope for us. In the following weeks, I continued to focus on my cooking. I started a food blog and gained a following, sharing my recipes and cooking tips with more people than I ever thought possible. It was thrilling to connect with others who shared my passion. I felt alive and empowered, and the hurt from Michelle's betrayal began to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose. Throughout this time, Michelle made an effort to support me, showing up to my events and even cooking with me occasionally. We were slowly rebuilding some semblance of trust, but it was fragile, and I remained cautious. I wanted to take things slow and not rush back into a relationship that had been so deeply wounded. Then one day, I received a call from the owner of the restaurant. He wanted to discuss a potential opportunity for a more permanent role with the establishment. My heart raced with excitement. This was what I had dreamed of, a chance to take my passion for cooking and turn it into a career. I couldn't wait to tell Michelle the news. I imagined how proud she would be, how she would see me not just as a husband but as a man pursuing his dreams. I knew that if I got this opportunity, it would change everything. That evening, as I prepared dinner, I felt a surge of anticipation. I wanted to create something special to celebrate this moment with Michelle. I crafted a beautiful dish and set the table with care, adding candles and flowers for a romantic touch. When she arrived home, I surprised her with the meal. As we sat down to eat, I shared the news about the potential job. Her eyes lit up with genuine excitement, and for the first time in a while, I felt us moving in sync again. "This is amazing, Jake. I knew you could do it," she exclaimed, and I could see the admiration in her gaze. I felt a warmth spread through me, and for a moment it felt like all the hurt was fading away. But deep down, I knew we still had a long way to go. I was rebuilding my life, my career, and my identity, but I also had to figure out what Michelle's role in that life would be. As I looked across the table at her, I couldn't help but wonder if she could truly appreciate the man I was becoming and whether she could be a part of this new chapter. With that thought lingering in my mind, I resolved to take things one step at a time. I had come too far to let the past pull me back, and I was ready to chase my dreams, regardless of where that would lead me in relation to her. Weeks turned into months, and the momentum of my culinary journey continued to build. I felt like I was finally emerging from the shadows of betrayal and stepping into my own light. The restaurant owner who had first invited me for the guest chef night offered me a position as a line cook, a dream job I hadn't dared to anticipate so soon. It was a huge leap, and I accepted with enthusiasm, excited yet terrified at the same time. As I began working at the restaurant, I dove headfirst into the fast-paced environment. The kitchen was alive with energy, filled with sounds of sizzling pans and the chatter of chefs. I loved every moment of it. I was learning from experienced chefs, gaining invaluable skills, and even experimenting with new recipes during off hours. The thrill of creating something delicious from scratch was intoxicating, and I felt more alive than ever. Michelle, on the other hand, had been supportive through the transition. She attended my shifts, bringing friends to the restaurant to showcase my work. I appreciated her efforts, but there was a nagging voice in the back of my mind, reminding me of the past. I still had my guard up, unsure if I could fully trust her again. One evening, while I was prepping for the dinner rush, I overheard a couple of chefs discussing a big upcoming culinary competition in town. The thought of competing excited me. This could be another opportunity to showcase my skills and push my boundaries. I couldn't help but envision myself taking center stage, presenting my dishes and soaking in the applause. That evening, I returned home with the idea buzzing in my head. I found Michelle sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up as I entered, and I couldn't help but smile at the sight of her. "Hey, how was work?" she asked, her eyes brightening. "It was great. I heard about this culinary competition coming up and I really want to enter," I announced, feeling the enthusiasm bubbling up inside me. Her expression shifted slightly and I could see a hint of worry crossing her face. "A competition? That sounds intense. Are you sure you're ready for it?" she asked, concern lacing her voice. "Of course. I've been working hard and I think it's a great opportunity to showcase what I can do. Plus, it could open even more doors for me," I replied, feeling the excitement radiate from me. "Just be careful, okay? I don't want you to overextend yourself," she said softly, but I could sense the underlying anxiety. I nodded, yet her words lingered in my mind. I had come too far to back down now. I started preparing for the competition, practicing new techniques and refining my signature dishes. The thrill of competition added fuel to my fire, and with each practice session, I felt my confidence grow. As the day of the competition approached, I spent countless hours perfecting my dishes. I wanted to impress the judges, to show them the passion I poured into my cooking. The night before, I barely slept, nerves and excitement keeping me awake. When the day finally arrived, I felt a mix of exhilaration and anxiety as I walked into the competition venue. The atmosphere was electric, with chefs from all over showcasing their culinary talents. I spotted familiar faces from the restaurant and felt a sense of camaraderie among the competitors. As the competition began, I channeled every ounce of my passion into my cooking. I prepared a plate of seared duck breast with a cherry reduction, accompanied by creamy polenta and seasonal vegetables. I wanted to create a dish that told a story that combined elegance and comfort. When it was time to present to the judges, my heart raced. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of all the hard work that led to this moment. I plated my dish with care, ensuring every detail was perfect. As I walked to the judges' table, I felt a surge of confidence. This was my moment. Today, I'm serving a seared duck breast with a cherry reduction, served alongside creamy polenta and seasonal vegetables. I wanted to create a dish that embodies both comfort and sophistication, I explained as I presented my creation. The judges tasted my dish, and I watched their expressions intently. Their nods and murmurs of approval sent waves of relief and pride through me. I had poured my heart into this dish, and it was finally paying off. As the competition progressed, I found myself gaining confidence and connecting with other chefs. We shared tips and encouraged each other, creating a sense of camaraderie that felt refreshing. It was a world I wanted to be a part of, one that was filled with creativity and support. When the time came for the winners to be announced, my heart raced. I stood among the other competitors, the tension palpable in the air. As the announcer called out the names, the anticipation mounted until he finally declared the winners. My heart soared as my name was called for third place. Cheers erupted, and I felt a rush of disbelief and joy. I had done it. I left the competition feeling triumphant. I had not only showcased my skills but also proved to myself that I was capable of achieving my dreams, despite the challenges I had faced. When I returned home, I couldn't wait to share my experience with Michelle. She greeted me with an excited smile, and as I told her about the competition, I felt her enthusiasm returning. "I'm so proud of you, Jake. Third place is amazing," she exclaimed, wrapping her arms around me. We celebrated that night, and for the first time in a while, it felt like we were reconnecting on a deeper level. We talked about the future, and I shared my dreams of opening my own restaurant someday. I could see the glimmer of hope in her eyes, and it rekindled something inside me, a desire to rebuild what we had lost. But as the weeks passed, I still felt the weight of our past looming over us. The competition had been a turning point for me, but I knew that our relationship needed more than just moments of joy to heal. I had to confront the reality of our situation, and decide what I truly wanted moving forward. One evening, as we were cleaning up after dinner, I turned to her, my heart racing. "Michelle, we need to talk about us. I can't keep pretending everything is okay when we both know it's not," I said, my voice steady but filled with emotion. She looked at me, concern written across her face. "I know things have been tough, Jake. I'm willing to work on it. I want us to be okay." "I want that too, but we need to be honest about what happened. I can't just pretend I've forgotten about your affair. It hurt too much," I replied, feeling the lump in my throat. Tears welled in her eyes and she nodded. "I never meant to hurt you. I got caught up in my own insecurities and I'm so sorry for that. I promise to do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust," she said, her voice trembling. We talked long into the night, sharing our fears and hopes for the future. It was a difficult conversation, but it felt necessary, a step toward healing and rebuilding our relationship. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was willing to try, and I could see that deep down she was too. It was a new beginning for both of us, and as I looked into her eyes, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe we could find a way to move forward, to redefine our relationship and rebuild what had been lost. As I went to bed that night, I realized that rebuilding trust would take time and it wouldn't happen overnight. But I was ready to take that journey, not just for us, but for myself too. I had found my passion, and now it was time to figure out how to blend that passion with the complexities of our relationship. The road ahead would be challenging, but I was determined to see where it would lead. As the weeks turned into months, I settled into my new role at the restaurant while simultaneously working on rebuilding my relationship with Michelle. The journey of healing was far from linear. There were good days filled with laughter and connection, and then there were tough days when the shadows of the past would loom large. But we were both committed to the process, and that made a world of difference. I continued to thrive in my culinary endeavors, gaining more recognition, and even being invited to collaborate with other chefs in special events. My food blog flourished, as I documented not only my recipes but also the lessons I learned about resilience and personal growth. I found joy in sharing my passion and connecting with others who shared similar experiences. It felt empowering to carve out my place in the culinary world. One evening, after a long shift at the restaurant, I returned home exhausted but fulfilled. Michelle had prepared a simple dinner, and as we sat down to eat, I felt a sense of normalcy wash over me. We shared stories about our day, laughter bubbling over as we reminisced about our early years together. It was moments like these that reminded me of the foundation we had built, and it filled me with hope. As the months rolled on, we began to have deeper conversations about our relationship. We were learning to communicate openly, addressing our needs and vulnerabilities. Michelle was making an effort to show me I was valued and appreciated, and I in turn was working to be more present and attentive. It required patience and understanding from both sides, but we were slowly learning how to support each other. Then came the day when I received a call that would change everything again. The owner of the restaurant where I had been working offered me a chance to run my own kitchen, to take charge of the menu and staff. I was elated. This was the opportunity I had always dreamed of. I rushed home to share the news with Michelle. "Jake, that's incredible," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "You've worked so hard for this. I'm so proud of you." We embraced, and for a moment I felt like we were stepping into a new chapter together. It seemed like a significant turning point, not just for my career but for our relationship as well. We were both finding our footing, and I could feel the connection between us strengthening as we celebrated each other's successes. As I prepared to take on this new role, I realized that this was a test of everything I had learned. I was ready to lead a team, but I was also determined to keep communication open between Michelle and me. The scars of the past still lingered, but I was finally beginning to understand how to blend my passion with my personal life. One evening, as we sat on the couch planning my transition to the new position, I turned to Michelle. "I want you to be part of this journey with me. You've seen me grow, and I want you to be there every step of the way." She smiled, her eyes filled with emotion. "I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, Jake. I know I messed up, but I see the man you've become, and I want to support you. I'm ready to work on us to make this stronger than ever." We made a pact to always prioritize our relationship, to not let the busyness of life overwhelm the connection we were building. I knew that the road ahead wouldn't be without challenges, but I felt a renewed sense of hope and purpose. Months later, as I stepped into my new kitchen for the first time, a wave of adrenaline coursed through me. I was excited to lead my team and create dishes that would resonate with our customers. It was a thrilling new chapter, and I was ready to take it on. When the doors opened for our first service, I felt a mix of nerves and anticipation. But as the kitchen buzzed with energy, I found my rhythm. I was in my element, and it felt incredible. As compliments from the diners flowed in, I felt a surge of pride. This was what I had worked for, not just in terms of my career but also in terms of personal growth. Later that week, I held a small gathering at the restaurant to celebrate my new role. Friends, family, and some of my closest colleagues came to taste my dishes. Michelle stood by my side, beaming with pride. Her support meant the world to me, and I could see how much she had invested in our relationship. As the night unfolded, I took a moment to step back and reflect. I had come so far, not only as a chef but also as a person. The pain of betrayal had transformed into a source of strength. I realized that I had taken control of my life, and I wasn't going to let past mistakes dictate my future. That evening, as I watched my friends enjoy the food I had prepared, I felt a surge of gratitude. I was no longer just the guy who had been cheated on. I was Jake, the chef who had reclaimed his passion and purpose. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Michelle approached me, her eyes shining. "You did it, Jake. I'm so proud of you. I can't wait to see where this takes you." I smiled, wrapping my arms around her. "I couldn't have done it without you. This is just the beginning, and I want you by my side." We stood there, surrounded by the warmth of friendship and laughter, and I knew that we were ready to take on whatever came next together. The road ahead was unknown, but I was confident that with love, communication, and trust, we could navigate through anything that life threw our way. As the night came to a close, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had turned the page on a new chapter of my life, one filled with promise, passion, and a renewed sense of purpose. I was ready for whatever came next, and I knew I could face it head-on, armed with the lessons I had learned along the way.